Lament Anambra North.
Yes.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, Anambra North experienced a very dark week, the worst of its kind. We experienced monumental casualties. Lives were lost. Sources of livelihood were lost. But the worst part, Mr. President, dear colleagues, is that these deaths were preventable. The accident itself were preventable. If only we had roads, if only the drivers of these tankers were trained, if only the drivers of these tankers were cautious enough and understood the technicality of the product that they were carrying and the equipment they were driving. These were the gaps, really, that made it possible for us to have the horrible accident that took place. It wasn't one, it wasn't twice. It happened 3 times consecutively within this number of days. Mr. President, it was a nightmare. And like the document has indicated, Anambra North is indeed in need of federal intervention. Many people don't know, but Anambra North, Onitsha in particular, is the metropolitan of Southeast. Everybody and anybody who is anybody domiciles in Anambra North, particularly in Onitsha. The market in Onitsha is the market that services the sub-Saharan. It's a market that has the daily turnover of 6.4 billion. That is huge. The sub-Saharan states and nations feed from Onitsha markets. It is crucial to our GDP. It feeds our GDP. And so federal intervention, Mr. President, is very, very crucial. And I urge these chambers to support us in pleading with the federal government to come to the aid of these traders. But most importantly, Mr. President, as we progress, that every market of this magnitude should have federal fire presence to ensure that we do not have reoccurrence of these accidents and that drivers are properly trained and equipped. Thank you, Mr. President, dear colleagues.
Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Uche Lilian Ekunifiyom. Mr. President, I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. President, 16th October was a very sad day for people of Anambra State. It was a Black Wednesday. It was a day that I can describe as a nightmare in the lives of the people of Anambra State and indeed the entire Southeast. Mr. President, Otanja Market is the 2nd largest market in Anambra State, and it has just to be one of the largest markets in West Africa. Mr. President, when we talk about the immeasurable mishap we had that Wednesday, it will be difficult for members of this parliament to understand it. Mr. President, the damage was monumental. It was huge in terms of human resources that was wasted, in terms of properties that were wasted, in terms of the businesses that were collapsed. Mr. President, that single action of that fire incident burnt down over 1 million shops. It burnt down over 100 buildings. It burnt down about almost 50 streets of that market, because I had the privilege of visiting that place with our former governor and our vice presidential candidate, Mr. Petrol, who were there to witness and to see by ourselves the damage, the level of damage that was caused by that fire incident. Mr. President, when that tanker fell in front of Toronto Hospital, Toronto is one of the biggest hospitals in Anambra State. The fuel poured and went through the drainage down to that market, over 500 meters. And as the fuel was going, the shops were burning, the houses were burning, people were being affected. That particular woman that lost her life and the life of her child, and in fact, when I visited the parents, the father told me that the girl was pregnant. So the girl died, the unborn baby died, and also her child died. Because she had already come out from the shop, but her attempt to bring out her child, she got trapped in the fire incident. So, Mr. President, I want to support my sister by saying that time has come when federal road safety people should be able to look at the quality of our drivers. And internationally, before you drive, you can't be driving when you are drunk. Most of our tanker drivers are drunk. Even when you face them on the road, the way they chase you out of the road is quite, embarrassing. We need to check the kind of drivers and the integrity of the drivers that drive our lorries. Also look at the integrity of the vehicles that ply our roads. And the Federal Fire Service, I don't see a reason why we should not have their presence in all the markets. This is the time we need to use this auspicious moment to get them to have their presence in all the major markets in Nigeria in order to forestall, future occurrence of this monumental damage. Mr. President, I want to also use this opportunity to beg with my colleagues that it's not just about passing these recommendations. It's about this Senate following it up to ensure that these traders are attended to so that their problems can be ameliorated by the decisions we are going to take on this floor. And also to amend these prayers to bring in to urge the Federal Fire Service to provide fire equipment in all the major markets in Nigeria, because accident is something that nobody will predict when it will happen. It will happen when it will happen. But a serious nation must put mechanism in place to ensure that when it happens, solution will come immediately. So while I thank my colleague Ifeanyi Ubah, Senator Stella Oduah for this motion, I want to also say that number 2, there should be correction in commensurate, should be commiserate with the victim. I think there's a typographical error there. So in supporting this motion, I want to beg my colleagues that all the prayers of this motion should be taken, and the amendment that federal government should provide fire service in all the major markets also should be added as number 8 prayers in this motion. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving us the opportunity to bring this up as a national discourse. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Chimaroke Nnamani. I represent Enugu East Senatorial Zone. I take this solemn occasion to salute the trinity of the character of the Igbo man, Njepu, Ibambo, and Akonoche. Court of reason, sojourning, and struggle, otherwise called hustle. Onitsha, more than any other city, represents the true trinity of the character of the Igbo man. And Onitsha market, being the largest market in Africa, represents the symbol of the achievement of the Igbo hustle. On behalf of the good people of Enugu State, I commiserate with those that have lost their lives and pray that they will continue to rest in peace in the bosom of the Lord. For those injured, we pray for quick recovery. And for those who sustained huge business losses, we also pray for resuscitation of their businesses. As we get to the prayers, prayer 3, the Federal Civil Fire Service, if they have service in Anambra State, they will review their activities, while Anambra State government will have the responsibility of reviewing Anambra State Fire Service. Thank you, Senate President.
We should be headed. We should find a way of funding pipelines that will convey these inflammable, dangerous, and volatile products to their destination. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Thank you, Your Excellency. My name is Senator Theo Ochendo, and my distinguished colleagues' compliments. Excellency, I want to join my colleagues, especially the mover of this motion, who has brought it to our knowledge, even though we know what has happened. This is not the first time this type of thing is happening in Anambra State. It's still reoccurring after this one. It is still reoccurring. It is not only, yes, not only Anambra, everywhere in Nigeria. We have debated it here. We have to take this thing very serious. First, let me give you an idea, Your Excellency and my colleagues, of what this type of disaster has cost Nigeria. From January, I got the statistics from the Federal Minister of Fire here. From January to December, in Gombe State, 20 people died and property worth 417 million destroyed, including this type of disaster. In Adamawa State, 89 fire outbreaks in 2018, 89, including this time, and 201 million naira was lost. In Lagos State, from January 2019 to July, 119 fire disasters, including this time, happened in Lagos State. In Kaduna State, very close to us, from January to October 2018, 454 fire outbreaks, including this time, happened in Kaduna State. In Delta, in 2018, fire outbreaks, including this time, consumed 3 billion naira. What of Osun State that is here? 137 fire outbreaks, including this one, happened in 2018. In Ebonyi State, very close to my state, 94 fire outbreaks, including this time, happened in 2018. And if you go further, you will expose. That shows you that fire is now our greatest enemy and problem. And we know that in the Bible, they say that this world will be destroyed by fire. So, yes, destroyed by fire. So I don't know what is happening, Your Excellency and my colleagues. I am actually confused whether we are coming very close to the near end. Therefore, since we know what is going to kill us, we have to fight it to survive. We have to survive. We have to fight it. And first and foremost is to take a proper look at these articulated vehicles applied.
Senator Stella Odua, please leave Haile Rijika alone.
The question I'm making is that these articulated vehicles first, that apply our roads, that carry these vehicles, should be looked at. And we know those that are roadworthy and those that are not roadworthy, and put them off. Then the drivers that manipulate and manage these vehicles, some of them dwell on drugs to do that job. Some of them dwell on hemp to make sure that they survive the oddities of the job. So it is for our agencies that are responsible for this to screen these people, to know that the people who are handling these vehicles are sane people that can manage the work. Then the other one, Your Excellency, is the state of our roads, which my colleagues have said. The Southeast is noted for the worst roads we have in Nigeria. We have been saying it. Onitsha, the same. If you go there now, I'm sure that this road may not even be a state road. It might be a federal road that is bad. If that road was good, this tanker vehicle will not collapse. So it is this opportunity that we have to call on both the state government and federal government to look at those roads that are critical and put them into shape so that they can be managed. And then, Your Excellency, the next one is that the type of equipment. Most of these fire service stations don't have equipment. They have rickety vehicle. When there is any fire, call them, they tell you they don't have fuel or the vehicle cannot start. How can they fight fire incidents? There are equipment that we have now, modern equipment used in fighting fire. I have seen this federal fire service has some. Let them distribute them to the states so that the states can, on emergency, when there's an emergency, these vehicles can go into operation. Excellency, finally, I sympathize, like I said, I sympathize with all those who are involved in this, and we wish that relief can come from left, right, and center. Thank you.
My condolences and sympathies to the people and government of Anambra State and to those who lost their dear ones in that inferno. Mr. President, the Onitsha market is very, very important and strategic to those of us from the Southeast. It is not an exaggeration if I say that every community in the Southeast have someone with a store in that market. And I can say clearly too that people who use this market or benefit from this market go beyond Anambra State, indeed go beyond Nigeria. People come from Cameroon, Liberia, Sierra Leone to that same market. So it's a very important market, not just for the people of Nigeria, but the sub-region of West Africa. So that tells you the extent of loss that occurred with that fire outbreak. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, this market has been in existence for over 80 years. And I believe it is time to modernize that market. If you go to that market, you also discover that it will be almost impossible for a fire truck to move in to help when you have this kind of situation. So I believe that it's time to modernize the market because the trend these days is a more like market that we have. The days of open market is gone. So I think it's time for Anambra State government to find money to modernize that market so that could be easy access to the market in case we have a fire incident such as this. The other issue is the issue of insurance, the place of insurance in matters such as this. We have an act establishing the insurance industry in Nigeria, and I'm aware that it made it compulsory for all public institutions and places such as markets to ensure such buildings and the compound. But we are not used to insurance in this country. So it is time for us to find a way of letting people know the benefit of insurance, to let them understand that insurance is key, because when these things happen, we may have to fall back on insurance. I saw the deputy governor of Anambra State, I think on Monday, and he told us a very instructive story. He said that before this thing happened, they had approached the leadership of that market to take insurance of 5,000 per store. And so when they had this meeting, the leaders, after listening to them and the insurance companies they brought, now asked them, assuming they paid the 5,000 and then there's no fire outbreak, will they get back their money? So to me, it shows the level of understanding of the place of insurance in situations such as this. So we need more education to let our people understand that there's need to insure their properties against fire, which would have helped in solving their problem now that this has occurred. So once more, I would like to say my sympathy and condolences to all those who lost their dear ones in that fire inferno, and also those who lost their properties. Our prayer is that this will not happen again. So I want to thank you for allowing us to contribute to this motion.
Thank you. Senator Ben Wajumo.
Because they are the beneficiaries of the
internal generated revenue from those markets to improve facilities in the market, to guard against these misfortunes. So I support this motion in totality, Mr. President, but I want us to be courageous enough to condemn a state government that is not doing well. Thank you.
Maybe because of the quantum of things that were destroyed. Who owns Onitsha market? Who takes internal revenue of the Onitsha market? I am sure the traders there are not just trading. They pay revenue to a system. And I believe it is either the local government area within which the market is situated or the state government. All revenues that are taken from the market goes to this area. So they have a major responsibility. The responsibility is that if the market needs new infrastructure, it is like a business. The state government or whoever is collecting revenue from the area should think of expanding the market, make it look better, like the malls and market we go to overseas. They can do it, but they are generating revenue there. The second aspect, those who are the traders in the market, although they are paying revenue, the market stores are the offices. If my office is not good enough, I will think of doing it better. Now, they are not even involving themselves in bringing innovation to make the market look better. So I will call on the government of Anambra State. While they are developing other good infrastructure in the country, in the state, they should also think about developing, expanding, and making the market better, such that if there is fire that comes out of one particular store, it may not raise the entire market down again. It's a possibility, so they can do it. The other issue I want to raise is this. Mr. President, you know our chairman Senate Committee on Interior in the last Senate, before you people graciously send me away. Now, Federal Fire Service was under Interior. Now you also put me in the committee on Interior. So when we are taking our budget with them, we saw their budget. Their budget cannot fight fire for even Abuja alone. It cannot. Now, when this fire got out, they didn't have facility in the area. They called a nearby state from Asaba to send vehicles, firefighting vehicles, to come to the market. And they came. But they came late. When they came, the market was already 50% burnt. And then when they came, there were no avenues to have access to where the fire was. So we have two problems. The Federal Fire Services should be empowered. If we don't empower them, all these fires we are hearing every day, they will keep on occurring them. The worst dead. You should see yourself caught up in fire, and then you are struggling and you are dying. It's hell now. Hell is supposed to, by the Christians, hell is supposed to after you die. If you are a sinner, you go to hell. If you are a righteous man like us, of course heaven is certain.
Are you sure about that?
No, I'm very sure. Righteous men like us will go to heaven. And DSP. Mr. President, we should do whatever we can and empower the Federal Fire Service in all the states. They don't have. Ask them whether they have fire service equipment in rivers. They don't have. And again, let us also call on every state government, because this is a joint task. I know that before now, many state governments also have fire service stations and equipment. Where are their fire service machines? Each local government area can acquire one fire service vessel or vehicle. It's a possibility. So if we have 724 firefighting vehicles that are operational in the country, we cannot say we don't have anything. We should encourage the local government areas. They can do it. Why have they not done even got only one? When there is fire, they will not carry bucket. The local government area carry bucket, run to the tap, wait for the tap to fill up the bucket, then you go and pour where the fire is raging. So this problem is caused by ourselves. We should also look internally and see how we can solve it. Thank you, Mr. Senior President.
Thank you very much. Well, prayer 1, observe a minute silence in memory of all those who died in the fuel tanker fire incidents on Wednesday, 16th October 2019. Any amendment? I think instead of memory, we can say in honor. So that amendment is credited to Senator Uche. Any seconder? Senator Emmanuel Okajev. You can't second from there.
As ably moved by Senator Uche, I so second.
Thank you very much, distinguished. So those in favor of prayer 1 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, I have not even read it. Maybe I should read it first. Yo. Send a delegation to visit and commensurate with, should be commiserate, not commensurate. Commiserate with victims and the people of Anambra State. Okay, what's the amendment, Senator? Sorry? Okay, that is yours too. Okay, any seconder? Senator Christopher Ekpeyon.
Mr. Senate President.
In favor of prayer 2 as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government to unravel the reasons why fire service in Anambra State could not speedily respond to the emergency with a view to curtailing such incident in future. Amendment, leader.
Raised earlier by the distinguished Senator Albert Akpan. I think I want to amend it as follows. Urge the government of Anambra State to unravel the reasons why the fire service in Anambra State could not speedily respond to the emergency. Full stop.
Any seconder? Senator Ibrahim Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I rise to second the amendment ably moved by the leader of the Senate, Dr. Abdullah Haya, that it should be Anambra State, not the federal government.
What is the second? What are you seconding?
Anambra State government to unravel the reason why fire service in Anambra State could not speedily respond to the emergency with a view to curtailing such incident in future.
Question now. So those in favor of this prayer as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. That's have it. Prayer 4. Commend the federal government for the promise to assist the victims and the affected traders with the relief materials and to work with the Anambra State government to forestall future fire incidences. Those in favor of prayer 4 say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, urge the federal government to include financial support in the package to the affected persons to enable them restart their businesses. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 6, urge the Nigerian police to work in conjunction with the Federal Road Safety Corps to carry out a thorough investigation of the circumstances leading to the accident that led to the fuel tanker fire, with a view to prosecuting anyone found culpable in this preventable fire incident. Those in favor of prayer 6 say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And prayer 7, accelerate the passage of the petroleum tankers safety bill. Sorry? We have not, you will come under additional prayer. Those in favor of prayer 7 say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer, Senator Iyo.
Mr. President.
Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, thank you very much for the various interventions, but let me re-echo what Senator Stella Odwa Adaze said. There is need to ensure that the drivers of these tankers are certified, that they don't drink, and of course, that goes to place some responsibility on the Federal Road Safety to be testing our drivers on the highways, on the roads, to ensure that they are not under any influence. But let me also concur with the positions of Senator Basi Albert and Joe Thompson Sekibo. You know, sometimes we say we should have proper structures of government in Nigeria. That is to say, the state should have their own responsibilities and the federal government should have its own responsibility. Fire service is something that the federal government can support states, but it is a major responsibility of any state to ensure that it takes the lead. The federal government can only provide some kind of support, but federal government cannot take lead. Of course, Abuja federal government here can take that lead, but I think states are supposed to ensure that they protect people from fire. And markets, like one of our colleagues said, our states get money. If that market or Onitsha market is the largest in West Africa, that is a gold mine for Anambra State government, and therefore Anambra State government should do everything and anything possible to ensure that this thing does not happen, that the roads within the markets are widened, and in fact even the roads leading to the markets are good. So I think there is need for federal government, of course, to come to the support of states, but states must never shy away from their responsibilities in the true spirit of true federalism. We share these funds of this country. Every state takes its own. And of course, that means that we also have responsibilities we can share, but this, I think, belongs to the states. With this, we have come to the end of all the items on the order paper for today. We have exhausted. And I want to congratulate all of us. So we observe a minute silence, and then we adjourn. A minute silence.